Good day everyone. So today I will be discussing about learners with exceptionalities. But before we start our discussion, there are some terminologies that will help us to understand our topic today. So first terminologies is impairment. Impairment means this is the loss or abnormality of a body function that can be an anatomical or psychological. Example is a missing limb or diagnosed mental disorder. Second terminologies is disability. Disability is an inability or restricted ability to perform an activity within the normal human range. For example, is being able to walk, to hear, to learn, and to live. Last terminologies is handicap or disability. Handicap refers to a functional limitation to a person that interferes with the person's physical or cognitive performance, like ADHD. And when we say handicap, it refers to a limitation to imposed upon a first person with a disability by society, such as lack of access for people in wheelchair. But before we start, we will tackle first what is exceptional learners. So, exceptional learners are learners or refers to students with disabilities as well as those who are gifted and talented. For example, are learners or children who are gifted and children who have disabilities, and those children with superior intellectual development and who are capable of high performance. There are categories of exceptionalities, and each category has different subcategories. So first category is cognitive or academic difficulties. Second, social, emotional, and behavioral difficulties. Third, giftedness. Fourth, sensory impairment. 5, physical disabilities and health impairment. In cognitive or academic difficulties, these are the subcategories, which is learning disabilities. Learning disabilities involve difficulties in specific cognitive process. This is a lifelong challenges and cannot be cured or fixed. Maybe these disabilities is biological differences or hereditary. The signs and symptoms usually appear when in childhood or infancy. This is the difficulties in reading, writing, and even solving math problems or calculating. There are examples of learning disabilities. First, dyscalculia, arithmetic disorder. Second, dyslexia, reading disorder. Third, dysgraphia, writing disorder. Dyscalculia is a specific learning disability that affects a person's ability to understand number and learn math facts. Dyscalculia means those persons who have difficulty in solving math or have trouble with math at many levels. They often struggle with key concepts like bigger versus smaller, and they can have a hard time doing basic math problems and more abstract math. The second is dyslexia. Dyslexia is a specific learning disability that affects reading and related language-based processing skills. Dyslexia means those children who have difficulty in reading due to problems identifying speech sounds and learning how they relate to letters and words, or that makes it hard for a person to read, write, and spell. Dysgraphia is a specific learning disability that affects a person's handwriting ability and fine motor skills. Means a person or students who have difficulties in spelling and has disturbance in putting thoughts on paper. Dysgraphia also is a neurological disorder that generally appears when children are first learning to write. Experts are not sure what causes it, but early treatment can help prevent or reduce problems. The second subcategories of cognitive or academic difficulties is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or ADHD. It is difficulty in focusing and maintaining attention and recurrent hyperactive and impulsive behavior. This is the one of the most common mental disorder affecting children and adults as well. Symptoms of ADHD include inattention or not being able to keep focus, hyperactivity, excess of movement that is not fitting to the setting. Impulsivity is the tendency to act without thinking. For example, running across the street without looking. Speech and communication disorder is the third subcategories of cognitive or academic difficulties. Speech and communication disorder is a difficulties in spoken language, like voice disorders means inability to produce the sounds correctly, and communication disorder is characterized by this deficit in ability to acquire, send, process, and comprehend ideas for nonverbal, verbal, or graphic symbol structure. And now, let's proceed to the second categories of exceptionalities with learners, which is social, emotional, and behavioral difficulties. And these categories has subcategories which is autism, mental retardation, and emotional. Autism is a condition when affected by different levels of impaired social interaction and communication, repetitive behaviors, and limited interest. Individuals who have autism usually have an intense need for routine in a predictable environment. Autism is a permanent and non-progressive developmental disease that usually manifests itself by the age of 3. Autism refers to a cognitive disorder that has a profound impact on nonverbal and verbal speech as well as social contact. The classic model of autism is characterized by a triad: deficits in social contact, speech and language usage, and reduced creativity as manifested by limited, repeated, and stereotyped patterns of actions and behaviors. Mental retardation refers to significant sub-average intelligence and deficits in adapted behavior, or there is a difficulty in managing activities of daily living and conducting themselves appropriately in social situations. In mental retardation, It can be defined as cognitive ability that is marked below average level and decreased ability to adapt to one's environment. The onset of the condition occurs the developmental period in gestation age through age 18 years. The third one is emotional conduct behavior. Emotional conduct behavior refers to a group of repetitive and persistent behavioral and emotional problems in youngster, children, and adolescents with this disorder have a great difficulty in following rules, respecting the rights of others, showing empathy, and having in a socially acceptable way. Symptoms of conduct disorder vary depending on the age of the child and whether the disorder is mild, moderate, or severe. And the symptoms of conduct disorder fall into four general categories, which is first, aggressive behavior, second, destructive behavior, third, deceitful behavior. Aggressive behavior, these are behaviors that threaten or cause physical harm and may include fighting, bullying, being cruel to other animals, and using weapons. While destructive behavior, these behaviors involves intentional destruction of property such as arson and vandalism just to harm other person's property. Third, deceitful behavior, the act of causing someone to accept as true or valid what is false or invalid. Is violation of rules. This involves going against accepted rules of society or engaging in behavior that is not appropriate for the person's age. Third category is physical disabilities and health impairments. When physical or mental impairments conflict with other aspects of everyday life, they are classified as disabilities. Physical impairments include those affected by congenital abnormalities, disease-related impairments, and caused by other condition. Disease and permanent illness are examples of health impairments. Physical and health impairments. This involves physical and medical condition, including one or more of these. First, limited energy and strength, reducing mental alertness, and lethal muscle control. Second subcategories of physical disabilities and impairments is severe and multiple disabilities. It refers to the presence of two or more different types of disabilities. The fourth category is sensory impairments. Sensory impairments can affect any of the five senses: the sight, auditory, smell, touch, and taste. But for instructional reasons, it usually applies to hearing, vision, or both hearing and vision impairment. It is called sensory impairment if one of your senses are no longer normal. Visual impairments. This involves malfunction of the eye or optic nerves that prevent normal vision even with correct senses. And the hearing impairments involves malfunction of the ear or auditory nerves that hinder perception of sounds within the frequency of range of normal speech. Example of visual impairment is if someone or learners are uses sunglasses. The last example of sensory impairment is deaf, blind, or dual sensory impairments. Is a combination of sight and hearing loss that affects a person's ability to communicate, access information, and get around. These are the children's or learner that have both hearing and visual impairments. The fifth categories of learners with exceptionalities is giftedness. Giftedness refers to children with outstanding talent who perform or show the potential for performing remarkable high levels of accomplishment. So, giftedness are students with have gift and talents perform or have the capability to perform at higher levels compared to others of their same age, experience, and environment in one or more domain. Is an intellectual ability significantly higher than average? There are learners who have an unusual alertness even in infancy or toddlers. They are also have rapid learners means they can quickly put thoughts together. Now let's proceed to people first language. First, avoiding generic labels. People with mental retardation is preferable to mentally retarded. Second, emphasizing abilities, not limitation. Uses a wheelchair is preferable to confine to a wheelchair. Third, avoiding euphemism, physically challenged. Fourth, avoiding implying illness or suffering. Had, had polio is preferable to is a polio victim. Multiple sclerosis is preferable to suffer from multiple sclerosis. And so this is the end of our discussion today. I hope you learn and thank you for listening.